We, the Laughing Cows, are not health professionals or certified lactation consultants. The views and opinions shared in this podcast are entirely our own and should not be considered a substitute for medical advice from qualified healthcare providers or lactation experts. Are we actually doing this?
We're doing it!
I'm Saba.
I'm Sara.
And we are the Laughing Cows. Welcome to our podcast where we talk all things exclusive breastfeeding.
From latches to leaks, we'll be taking you through our experiences and personal journeys of feeding our 4 little ones.
So whether you're a seasoned breastfeeder, new mama, or mama-to-be, come on in.
We're here for you as your fellow breastfeeding sisters, providing you with the support
and laughs you need to get you through this oh-so-glamorous season in life.
Oh gosh.
Are you okay?
I just had to run up the stairs. The kids, they just come, they say I need a pee-pee, you have to run down, then you come back up.
That was so cute though. We just see this shuffling under the door. We're like, who is there?
Mommy,
Is it my one? Is it your one? He's like, Mama, I need to pee-pee.
I had to quickly run upstairs just to make sure he didn't follow me.
Okay, I'll let you catch your breath. Welcome back to the Laughing Cows. Today we're talking about something that can totally make or break your breastfeeding journey, your support circle. So whether it's your partner, your family, friends, or even an online community, or all of the above, if you're living the dream, having the right people around you makes such a big difference, honestly. From pure encouragement to deeply unsolicited advice, because we all know there's that auntie, we're diving into the highs, the lows, and why you need your very own breastfeeding cheerleaders. So let's move into it.
Okay, so why would you say having a support system is important when exclusively breastfeeding?
Oh wait, hang on. Can I just confess something?
Oh no, what did you do?
So when preparing for this episode, I actually had 3 donuts.
What? 3?
I feel really bad.
Oh my god.
Look, I know it sounds a bit random. I know it doesn't sound like it's related, but
is this a secret behind your dessert business? Just a front for your own sugar addiction?
I definitely do have a sweet tooth. But yeah, let me explain. So I had the worst night. So I was breastfeeding on and off like a human pacifier or something. Yes, and I do still breastfeed my 1-year-old. I know some people probably think that's a bit weird, breastfeeding a toddler, but I'm not ashamed of it. And yeah, I'm tired, but last night was like non-stop. It was like an all-you-can-milk buffet or something.
All-you-can-milk. Buffet nights, yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, so anyway, today I was running on fumes, as you do, and I just had to hoover up like the first sugary thing I saw. And unfortunately, this time they were 3 sad little Asda donuts.
What? Oh my god, if you're gonna binge, at least make it like worth it. Like, an overpriced donut with Himalayan salt and edible glitter.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know about the Himalayan salt, but exactly, like if I'm gonna spiral, it needs to be artisan, handcrafted, and like made by some pastry chef called Pierre.
Instead you got Barry from Asda's stale shelf.
I just feel really bad. I feel like a bit betrayed because they just weren't that good, and like I just feel betrayed by myself, by Barry, by everyone.
I mean, what can you do now? They're gone. It's okay. But next time, just let me know. I'll bake you something that's worth the sugar crash.
Thanks. I guess I kept you around for a reason. All right, and enough of the donut drama. Okay, let's get into today's topic. So I actually came across a quote recently on social media, which is the perfect statement to kick off this episode.
Okay, go on then. What is it?
So it says, "No woman has ever had to do so much alone as the modern mother."
Oh, wow, yeah, that's so true.
And the thing is, there are lots of ways you can interpret this, but let's talk about exclusive breastfeeding. So just because you have the goods, it doesn't mean that you have to do it alone. And please don't do it alone. So if you're listening to this and you're pregnant or you're planning to breastfeed, please don't do it alone. So the physical act itself, like of breastfeeding, it is down to you, but there's just so much more to it to make your journey more enjoyable, right?
Right. So why is the support circle so important?
So I would say having that support circle is crucial to your breastfeeding journey because, number one, breastfeeding is challenging as it is, and it can be incredibly tough at times, as well as like very tempting to give up when things get really hard.
Yeah, definitely, because you have to manage, the cluster feeding, you have to power through growth spurts, you have to deal with latch issues, oversupply, undersupply, feeding every 2 to 3 hours around the clock. A support system helps you validate that. So you're not, not being dramatic. It is intense, especially if the babies are unwell.
Well, there's growth spurt periods and when the babies are sick, those are like the night buffets, are open.
Yeah.
Those nights, it's tough. But yeah, getting back into it. So number 2, it can be incredibly lonely, especially during those night feeds when the whole world's sleeping, and you're up repeatedly. And number 3, it can also make you hangry, and you definitely need someone to supply you with those hearty meals, or even, those occasional takeaways, especially in those early days.
Yeah, Mama would definitely not let us have any takeaways.
Yeah, it was only
that.
Good breastfeeding food, the broths,
the
bone
chicken,
broth,
chicken broth and all of that good stuff. But honestly, like between the sleep deprivation, the hormones, just feeling so isolated sometimes, it can be a lot. And having someone, you can text at 2 a.m. while you're crying over that cracked nipple, and that can be the difference between getting through it and just completely burning out and just giving up on the whole process. Having support, it doesn't fix everything, but it definitely does lighten that load.
Yeah, definitely don't miss those cracked nipples. But yeah, having a donut supply also doesn't go amiss, during those breastfeeding days. That's always useful. So let's go back to the prep phase, getting ready to breastfeed. Is there anything special or specific that you did to make sure that, you had the right people around you to help you during your journey?
Honestly, like, step 1 was making sure I didn't annoy you. As my older sister and, like, go-to breastfeeding expert, if you stopped talking to me, then I would have been done for, disaster, just me, the baby, and a very unhelpful Google search history.
I can confirm I was your 24/7 lactation hotline.
Fully. But yeah, other than that, I connected with one of our close friends who was due around the same time. She was actually your very close friend. And then we became really close because we were due at the same time. We were also both having boys. We were in the same town, in the same hospital. It was such a blessing to have someone going through the exact same thing at the same time.
Oh, that sounds so ideal. I think I also had a similar thing in my first pregnancy because my sister-in-law was pregnant at exactly the same time, and I think she was at a very similar stage to me, so our children were then born like 1 week apart. But just having that go-to person like during the pregnancy generally as well, even if you do have like different feeding journeys, it's just really lovely to just have, because it was her third pregnancy but it was my first, so it was just really nice to have that person like guide you through something that's so new to you.
Yeah, it was so nice because like we both planned to exclusively breastfeed, so we went, it's not that we were just having babies at the same time, we were also very like-minded in things.
Yeah.
We were on the same page from the start, and even though our journeys were different and what we decided to do like later on was different, we became really close buddies. We were messaging each other, sending voice notes through those night feeds, sharing tips. We had lots of rants and random baby pics, and it made such a difference.
Sorry, I thought I heard you say poo pics there. I was like, wow, you got really comfortable with each other, didn't you?
What? No.
So basically, find your people, especially the ones who don't judge your 3 a.m. snack choices.
Yeah, exactly. Like-minded mums with shared goals. Absolute game changer.
So, actually, I do remember you saying all those things you had in common, with my friend, and it just seemed like destiny.
Yeah.
So during my first pregnancy, which was throughout the peak of COVID, by the way, it wasn't a great time, was it? I didn't have that luxury of meeting up in person with old or new friends and moms to discuss breastfeeding, but something I did do was to contact my friends who had already had kids and who I knew were breastfeeding, to just get some snippets of advice from them. And I think, like I said in the last episode, one of my friends really reassured me that I'd be absolutely fine. I think she had 3 kids at the time, and she said you'd be fine getting to grips with breastfeeding, and if you have any issues, just call me. And I really liked that because that's the kind of openness I needed.
Yeah. So did you end up giving her a call?
Thankfully I didn't need to. I think I do remember her checking in on me though, and we exchanged a few messages. I didn't need to give her a call, but something that really helped me personally through the night feeds and just general loneliness at nighttime of breastfeeding a newborn during COVID especially was being part of a mummy WhatsApp group with my university friends, because coincidentally a lot of us had babies during December, the December sort of COVID period.
Yeah.
And we also all ended up, night feeding together and exchanging messages.
Oh, that's so nice. That's like the great thing about having a support circle. They'll just be there to like troubleshoot when, your Google searches just get so overwhelming. You've got like a million questions like, is this latch normal? Are they getting enough milk? Why is my baby nursing every 45 minutes? What on earth is a hacker? And like, why is it my best friend? And, at that moment, you don't need those like 600 conflicting internet opinions. You need just someone who's been there, who's done it.
Absolutely.
So aside from your uni friends, did you go out of your way to like make additional breastfeeding contacts and to expand that circle that you already had?
It's a good question. I don't think I did. Again, because of the COVID lockdown, there wasn't really any point. I know there were lots of like, people were like video calling a lot during that period.
Oh, okay.
For example, in my workplace, people were like arranging like coffee breaks to talk to each other like on video call, just to imitate like coffee breaks in the office and that kind of thing. But I don't know, I didn't really see any point. I didn't bother, making new mum friends on apps like Peanut, where you can find other women who are like at a similar stage of pregnancy to you. But, I'm sure other people did, and that's great. But even though I was really apprehensive about breastfeeding and I heard like an overwhelming amount of negative things from some people I'd asked, one thing I didn't do or didn't know to do was to, find the contact of a lactation consultant in case I did have problems. I didn't even think to do that. Because to be honest, most of my prep during the first pregnancy, in terms of prep for birth and breastfeeding, was watching One Born Every Minute on Channel 4.
Oh my god.
Which probably wasn't very helpful, to be honest.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I didn't do that, but yeah, and I didn't contact a lactation consultant either. But lactation consultant, that's like now going into the practical social circle.
Yeah, practical.
So people who can actually physically help support you breastfeed the actual
exactly
stuff.
And I think we'll come to that in a second. I think what you want to do first is get in contact with and develop a good relationship with people who you think are going to morally support you with your breastfeeding journey. So really pull those people in. So I was collecting a bank of tips and advice to get a better idea of what to expect from my friends. Although nothing can actually prepare you for the reality, because every person's going to have a different reality when it comes to breastfeeding. But it's just so reassuring to know that you just have someone a ping away to just bug with all those breastfeeding questions.
Yeah, definitely. And I think for us also, like arranging to have our mum support us so soon after birth, that was like part of the social circle prep. And, she was very clued up on breastfeeding, and she'd be able to lend those words of encouragement if we were finding it hard, and she did. And, you were also around for me personally, and you had the experience, so that was really encouraging. Like you showed me, how to breastfeed more comfortably so soon after the birth when you came over, and you were there like fluffing the pillows, positioning them in the right way. I had no idea that was even a thing. Like I didn't know I'd need so many pillows to support my arm.
Yeah, just getting in that comfortable position to breastfeed, takes quite a few pillows sometimes.
Yeah, it was so nice to just have that, like you were over just straight away. And I remember when you came into the room and I was feeding baby and he was doing that thing that they do, the flutter sucking, yeah. And then you were teaching me like how to delatch like appropriately,
slip the finger in,
put the pinky in
there. I remember that now. But I also remember like feeling, because it's like the early days just soon after the birth, and you don't want to overstep, you don't want to stay over and like encroach on that space. But I'm glad you found it useful. I remember
it was so useful because you like after you've been through that traumatic experience, it does help to just have those familiar people, familiar faces around just to help you,
especially like other women as well, who've been through it, and especially like your sister and your mum.
It just makes you feel more comfortable and just makes you feel more at home, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I remember like feeling a bit reluctant to stay over, because obviously I had my daughter with me at the time, and she was still breastfeeding, I believe, at the time. So she had to stay with me, and I just felt like I was overstepping a bit, because the original plan was to stay at Dad's house and then to like come and see the next day again, but he was like, who better to advise and be with you in this time than her?
That sounds like something he'd say.
He had a big speech, and I was like, all right, I'll stay over. to make a scene. So talking about support circle, another thing is preparing the person, closest to you.
Your partner.
Yes, your partner. So the one who, got you here in the first place. So preparing them, clearing them up on breastfeeding is just so, so important. Go ahead, share the resources, the YouTube links that you've been watching, share them with him so that he's on the same page. Have open discussions about it. And there's actually this American doula I used to listen to, whose page I really liked. She had lots of tips on like latching and natural birth, because that's what I was hoping for. And I'll link a description to her page in our podcast description box, hopefully.
Yeah, doulas are like a very modern thing, aren't they?
I think the term doula is fairly new, but the idea of having, a female companion there specifically to help you after the birth with breastfeeding and other things, I think that's been around for like centuries.
Yeah. And I guess as part of your village, you would have an experienced and trusted person. I think breastfeeding specific doulas are a thing now.
Yeah, even night doulas. So yeah, it's definitely a thing now. And it's such a brilliant idea, I think. Almost like a live-in lactation consultant who can also cook. Hopefully they wouldn't kick you. But they'd like cook. They like cook and like clean for you.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I did actually do some research on this and how to, get or book a breastfeeding doula.
Oh, right. And?
There's something called the douladirectory.com where you can like search professionals in your area. And that's, this isn't an ad for it, but I think, it's a great option for women who really are struggling to find like-minded people who will encourage their breastfeeding journey. We're getting into the giggles.
Sorry, I just have this like image of a
doula kicking you.
Why would a doula kick a poor mum who's just had a baby? But that's so great. See, like these resources definitely wouldn't have been around, like in our parents' time. That's amazing. But it's an option. It is an option, I guess. But I'm not sure how I would personally feel like having someone I didn't know so well like around at such a sensitive time, like postpartum.
Oh yeah, same actually. But it is an option for those couples who are far away from family and help, or even those who don't really have any helpful family members, those family members.
Oh yeah, no, that's great. And it's great that these kind of resources again are available these days. But another thing I remember at one of my antenatal appointments the first time, sorry. One thing about me is once I get the giggles, it gets really bad. So let's hope I can come back from this.
Oh no.
Deep breaths. So as I was saying,
you're talking about your antenatal appointment.
Yeah, so I remember one of my antenatal appointments the first time I saw flyers like advertising breastfeeding help and how you could actually attend these classes where they would actually help you to breastfeed, which is quite nice.
But that would be like after the birth, no?
Yeah, I think so. I think there was like a communal and social aspect to it where you basically go and you meet other breastfeeding mums as well as, learn how to breastfeed. And that's really useful for those who don't necessarily have a lot of family or friends around to help with that specific thing, or groups like the Association of Breastfeeding Mothers also have super useful resources, and Breastfeeding Network as well. They also have volunteers who specifically support breastfeeding mums.
That's really good. And speaking about the social circle, a big player nowadays is actually social media. So you've got
media.
Yeah, you've got the breastfeeding advice you get from midwives and mamas, but then there are memes. Hello.
Those memes, those reels. It's actually so true because it's become a thing now, right, on Instagram, especially where you communicate and show your support by sharing memes and reels that you relate to with other mums. You just hit that airplane icon and share with them. You don't even say anything with it. They just get it.
Yeah.
And how many breastfeeding life memes and reels are there that just tickle you in the middle of the night? You're just laughing there to yourself in the nursing chair.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, I can't count the number of videos you've sent me of gorilla mamas feeding their babies. Yeah, I feel like you tend to send me all the funny ones and I just send you the emotional ones of
yeah. And I think we kind of touched on this briefly before, so let's circle back to it now. The MVP, right? The most important person in your breastfeeding journey.
Who? The baby?
Well, yeah, but I mean, from a support perspective, so your partner, right?
Oh,
so
okay.
Can we just take a moment to emphasize how important your partner is to your journey?
So important.
Yeah, so I can imagine it can be really stressful if your partner isn't on board with the whole breastfeeding job. So as if motherhood isn't stressful enough. That's why it's just so important not to assume and just to talk it out beforehand. So was this something that you did, or was this just an assumption that, yeah, I'm going to breastfeed when we have a baby?
Honestly, it was just kind of assumed, I think, for us. Like, we didn't really have any proper conversations about it beforehand. Although I'm sure, it is good to do that beforehand. But I think because it was our first baby, we didn't fully know what to expect. And it was
Right.
more
You
like,
can never really know.
yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, it was more like we'll aim to breastfeed and then see what happens when the time comes, But at one point, I did give pumping and bottle feeding a go. And honestly, like after that experience, I just knew exclusive breastfeeding was the way to go for me personally.
Yeah, really, it's not for everyone, is it? And for me, I think from what I remember, I definitely made it clear that I wanted to breastfeed exclusively. I was pretty passionate about it, and I was also hoping to have a natural birth with minimal interventions. And I shared the links I mentioned before about birth and breastfeeding with your partner. The reason I mentioned natural birth here too is because I think it goes hand in hand with breastfeeding.
Yeah.
Obviously, women can birth with interventions and still go on to breastfeed successfully, but part of the mental prep for me personally to breastfeed also included like relaxing myself and preparing to birth as naturally as possible.
Right, yeah, that's so interesting because, yeah, I think I also followed a similar preparation mindset and that I was definitely hoping to like go as naturally as possible.
It's just that whole sequence of natural birth, skin to skin, breastfeed straight away, and natural birth allows that, and your partner is obviously key in advocating for you and the birth and the feeding journey that you've chosen. Whether it's like with the midwives surrounding your birth or the family members who really would like to feed the baby and so on, like your partner is your main advocate.
Yeah.
And I have to admit, like, it's the mama who has to do most of the prep anyway to breastfeed. There's not that much prep that, your partner can do. But their job anyway is that solid as a rock moral support.
In addition to the nappy changes.
Yeah, like that comes after on, I guess. And moral support from your partner, it's just not something to be taken lightly. That person is going to be with you more than any other person. And if they're making unhelpful or unsupportive comments, for example, it can be so detrimental to your mental health.
Yeah, and they're the ones that are there with you during the whole labor experience as well. So they're with you throughout the whole process. But yeah, it is also difficult for the partner to like feel useful sometimes as well, because like breastfeeding isn't just for food. It's a major source of comfort, it's bonding. So it's really important for you to like help your partner to understand the many ways that they can actually support you.
Yeah, without having to be the one to feed the baby, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there are so many ways that they can help and bond without being the one who actually provides the food, at least in those first 6 months. And to be fair, not many couples actually learn of these ways, until they're right in the thick of their breastfeeding journey. There's so many ways that they can help, from refilling a water bottle, the nappy changing, rocking back to sleep after a feed, which is actually really easy, or not really easy, but like much easier in the newborn phase, and the burping after a feed, holding and playing with the baby while you're in the shower.
Yeah, or holding the baby against the shower door so that they can watch you while you shower.
Is that actually a thing? I've seen like memes and reels about it. But...
yeah, there are loads out there. I mean, I've been in that situation momentarily, when baby wakes up inconsolable from their nap and daddy brings them into the bathroom to show them that you're still around, albeit in like a steamed up vase. But then, they leave you in peace.
Yeah, for some reason babies love watching their mums in the shower.
Especially those breastfed babies, they just get really, really excited. But yeah, babies in general will just be so happy, like, and then till the shower steams up and they're like, no, I can't see you anymore.
Yeah, so that list we mentioned before of, how your partner can help, I think I've thought of a few more as well.
Yeah.
So there's grocery shopping, there's getting you your phone when you sit down to feed and you can't move. Yeah, you can't move from that position. Getting you your water, entertaining the toddler if you have an older child. So those are like so many ways they can help.
Yeah, definitely. There are those are just some of the many ways, right? Like you said, that they can support you, and at the end of the day, they are actually the leader of your social circle.
Yeah, that's so true. They definitely are the leaders and your advocates.
Definitely your advocates. And now we're turning it over to you, ladies. We want to hear your funniest breastfeeding support stories, so do send them in.
Oh, I actually have a good one. So the other day I went to the supermarket and I had baby in the carrier and toddler in the pram, and baby was feeding in the carrier, and I had my basket of shopping.
Yeah.
I was at the checkout, like, you know, ready to check everything out, and I was really, this auntie behind me, she could see I was really struggling to, you know, put the stuff on the conveyor belt.
Yeah.
So she just stepped in and she put everything on there for me.
Aww.
Yeah, it was just like, you know, the help that you need is so,
Yeah, in that moment.
yeah, it was so nice. Just, you could tell she knew she was a mama too.
Oh, that's so nice. So thanks for listening, and we'll catch you in the next episode of The Laughing Cows, where we finally get down to the details of the physical prep we did to breastfeed. Don't forget to follow our Instagram page, The Laughing Cows Official, to stay up to date with all things exclusive breastfeeding.
See you then.